Do me a favor, bro. Hold this L.
Hold this L.
Hold this L.
Welcome to another episode of Hold This L. This is your host, Lonnie and Cappel. What's going on, cuz? You ready for another interesting, wonderful week talking sports?
Oh man, I'm always ready. You know that. Ready to dive into it, man. I mean, we got a lot. We got a good, interesting show. Got a lot to talk about. So I mean, I'm ready to rock and roll like always. You know.
Yeah. Well, what's going on with you? Anything interesting? Anything that you want to share with the folks out there?
Not a lot, really. I mean, man, I've been sick. Actually had a cold.
Yeah.
Thank God it wasn't COVID. You know, obviously. Thank goodness. It was just a regular average cold. I got 4 COVID tests just to be sure, and they all came back negative. So I mean, other than that, I mean, I'm feeling better now. Got a lot more energy. So hey, everything's going good. How about you, man? So I mean, other than that, I mean, I'm feeling better now. Got a lot more energy. So hey, everything's going good. How about you, man?
Oh, I'm good, man. Everybody else don't, but went to LA last weekend. Enjoyed it. First time going to LA. Yeah, y'all gotta get out there and travel. If y'all not doing that, of course, if you're not traveling because you're still not comfortable, that's fine. That's not what I mean. If you're not comfortable because of COVID, you're still not really wanting to get on the plane and be around people, no problem. But if you are out, hey, travel. Tickets are at an all-time low, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, just get out there. It relieves a lot of stress. It's just nice to get away from where you are, different scenery, different atmosphere. Be around people you don't know and just enjoy life. But that kind of reset me to finish this year off, feel rejuvenated, and And also for our Marvel fans, Eternals coming out in November. You haven't checked out the trailer. It look like it's gonna be another banger by Marvel. Hawkeye's coming out. What this is October? Is it at the end of this month or is it November?
Oh
It's
man,
soon. It's coming.
I'm slipping on it, but it's November. I just don't know. I can't remember the
Yeah.
exact date.
So we know that has nothing to do with sports, but we Marvel fans and we're gonna announce Marvel stuff. So there you have it. Anyways, let's jump into some sports. Jump into football. So last week was a great week, and one of the things that we noticed is how great these quarterbacks are playing. We got a lot of young quarterbacks. Like we got Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. We got Justin Fields who just came in. We don't know how great he's going to be, but he has this great skill set. Trey Lance has this great skill set. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence. Throw some other people out there.
Tua Tagovailoa.
And, and just talking, we were like, man, they got a lot of really good quarterbacks. I remember a time where you would have just a handful of really good ones,
Right.
and it was like one of these teams gonna win because these
Allen.
quarterbacks are just too good. Josh Allen, yeah, and I'm not gonna try to like just name all of them, even though I did name the majority of them.
It's
But
a lot of them.
it's a lot of them. And one of the things we was like, just thinking through is like, why are the quarterbacks so good? We have our different thoughts on that. Why do you think? What's the reason that we have these quarterbacks that's so good now? Like, what's happened between the way things used to be and now?
I think there's multiple reasons actually. One of the biggest things I'll say is it's become a more quarterback friendly league. That's something nobody will deny when it comes to the NFL. It's become a more passer friendly league, offensive league. So it's a lot easier, in my opinion, for quarterbacks. I won't say to just come in college. These quarterbacks are getting a lot more experience. They're looking and I think college teams are playing a lot more NFL like minded offensive styles and even the defenses. So I mean I think these quarterbacks are a lot more prepared than what they used to be coming into the NFL. But the biggest thing for me is the roughness of it. They not coming in getting beat up like these rookies used to, and the learning curve to me is just not as the learning curve is not as steep as it used to be going from college football to the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, that could be it. Of course, it's theories. We have our thoughts based on what we look at and what we used to see from then and now. For me, I think the main thing is this. like I try to separate what a person could overcome. You know what I mean by that is, like you said, um, the learning curve is not as steep as it used to be. The learning curve is not as steep as it used to be. Kind of like that argument where people would say, man, LeBron James wouldn't be the same player in the '80s. It's because he doesn't have to be. Doesn't mean that he couldn't. And so the way I look at it is, years ago, the norm was you draft a quarterback, you sit him 2 or 3 years, let him learn, and then he comes out, and then he gives you what he has, and he's either going to be good or not. And then that slowly started to fade into you draft him ready. Now, the argument that they're doing better in college as far as like being more prepared, they're more pro style offenses, I agree with that. But the main thing to me is experience. Like, think about it. Any job that you do, you don't learn sitting. You learn theory while you watching, but you don't really learn it until you get in there. These quarterbacks getting drafted, like, you got to be ready day one. Very few quarterbacks sit a period of years to learn and then go in. Like Patrick Mahomes sat basically a year to learn to go in. Justin Herbert was thrust in there, although by accident. What would have happened if Tyrod Taylor didn't get hurt? He may have been decent enough to play the first half of the season, or even 8-9 games into the season. I mean, who knows? Maybe Tyrod Taylor's style of play would have made them call the game different. They would have been more run heavy instead of passing the ball all over the place. Maybe slow the game down. Maybe they would have won more games, because their defense wasn't ready. I mean, who knows? My point is we wouldn't have saw the greatness that we saw in Justin Herbert last year so early, but he got in there. He was ready to go. So I think it really, honestly, I feel like a lot of these players, you put them in any era, they would be good, ready to go. So I think it really, honestly, I feel like a lot of these players, you put them in any era, they would be good. Maybe not as good as the numbers show because, of course, like you mentioned, you can't beat the quarterback up no more. So that does matter as far as numbers and statistics. But I think the hands-on experience that these guys are getting by having to be ready and come in and learn, like look at Justin Fields. His first game was atrocious. They slowed the game down for him. Now he's looking decent. He's going to go, to me, he can't go anywhere but up from here. How high he goes, I don't know. But it's like, what if he was still sitting on the bench, if they'd have put another person in or signed Cam Newton or did something outside of just letting him play, we wouldn't know where he is right now. So, I like you said, I think it's a lot of factors, but the truth of the matter is it's a lot of good ass young quarterbacks in the league.
And you know what else? If you think of backs, you don't usually see teams that's built the way these teams are built now and still able to draft a quarterback in the early rounds. Like, don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes, nobody knew Patrick Mahomes was going to be Patrick Mahomes because he would have went a lot earlier. He wasn't like a top 5 pick. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
But these Josh Allens, and when they drafted these guys, and don't get me wrong, they built a couple of years around him, because if you look at Josh Allen a couple of years, his rookie year versus when they got some weapons for him, I mean, I think that's a lot to do with it too, is these teams are Trey Lance. I mean, the 49ers got the number 3 overall pick, and it was because of injuries, not because they actually have a really good team. And the one thing you would say they probably missing is a quarterback, and now you've added one, Justin Herbert. The Chargers didn't have a bad team when they got him. You know, so a lot of these quarterbacks are going to teams. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore, he fell in their lap. They weren't bad. They weren't in their lap. They weren't bad. They weren't a bad team. He fell in the draft. But you got a lot of these guys, it's like they are, not only are they really good, but they are actually in great situations.
Yeah, that is also true. Very, very true. Like, it's a few teams. I mean, it's so many good teams and so many teams with good quarterbacks or young talent, that who's going to need a quarterback next year? Like, I mean, we don't know what Trevor Lawrence is going to be, but we know that the Jaguars are not going to invest in a quarterback in the next couple of years. Neither will the Jets, neither will the Patriots, neither will the
Pittsburgh
Bears,
will.
neither will Yeah, Pittsburgh would be, but that's what I'm saying. Is like that's because of a quarterback who's out the door.
Right,
So
right.
like let's go through some teams who we think will be looking to make that transition next year. Definitely Pittsburgh. I think I think possibly the Saints because unless he is going to be that quarterback, um, and to me it's like he's waiting on somebody else because you got to trust your quarterback.
My
Like
thing
he's
is, we'll see
you
what
know
we'll see what they're about when Michael Thomas come back. Right now, I'm gonna
yeah.
be honest with you. He really don't have nobody to throw to. That's another thing. I mean, when you don't have nobody to throw to, when your best wide receiver is Marquez Callaway, I mean, it's
I
hard to
mean
judge a
that's true.
quarterback based off of the things around him. I mean, I look at Tom Brady. I mean, so we thought he was done a couple of years ago based off of the things that were around him. So I mean, it's just until Michael Thomas come back, we can't give a true. But I still think you do make a valid point with the Saints. I mean, because when he does come back, if Jameis don't show some improvement or a drastic improvement, they probably will be looking for a quarterback. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't really think there's like you say, there's not a whole lot of teams that's just lining up and you like they need to will be looking for a quarterback. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't really think there's like you say, there's not a whole lot of teams that's just lining up and you like they need a quarterback, they need a quarterback, they need a
I
quarterback. I
think
mean, there's a
I
few
think
out
some
there, but
teams I think some teams are going to be looking based on how situations play out for the remainder of this year. Like for example, the Giants with Daniel Jones. He's been there 3, 4 years. He's had his time to show what he can do. And the Giants are on the clock. They need to move forward. If they happen to be in a position to draft one of these top quarterbacks in his next draft coming up, and they have a quarterback, because sometimes the quarterbacks are like thin, and you ain't gonna waste your
mm,
pick on a quarterback just because your quarterback that you have is not a good one, and
right,
the quarterbacks there are okay. Nah, but if they have like this quarterback draft was heavy in talent. If they have another one like that, and the Giants continue to lose and lose and lose, done. You know, like that. I mean, we talked about Derek Carr. We both think he's a phenomenal quarterback. We both think he's a phenomenal quarterback. But the fact of the matter is, he's been with that team for a while, and they're not moving anywhere. You can
mm,
blame it on the front office. You can blame it on um, coaching. But just like with the Jets, I believe Sam Darnold was a good young talent. And look what he's doing with Carolina. He couldn't do that with the Jets because of
mm,
the factors around that team. I believe that may happen to Derek Carr if they are not able to like win games and make the playoffs this year. Raiders may be going in a different direction. Same thing with Carson Wentz and the Colts. I know he just signed there. He gets hurt a lot. Depending on how things go with the Colts, if they have an opportunity to draft a young, great talent because they see their season is terrible and they lose, he may be somebody that may be looking to
mm.
lose his position. So I think it's stuff like that will determine teams who get young quarterbacks, but it's not because they don't have somebody sitting there that's capable.
There's
It's just
not many.
circumstances around it. Maybe somebody that may be looking to
Mm,
lose his position. So I think it's stuff like that will determine teams who get young quarterbacks, but it's not because they don't have somebody sitting there that's capable.
there's
It's just
not many.
circumstances around the team that will make that happen.
Right, there's not many teams in need of a
Yeah.
quarterback. I'll give you a.
Washington.
I'll give
Washington
you.
football team
Yeah,
is the one team that need a quarterback.
I'll give you a surprise team that I wouldn't be surprised if they might to move on quarterback soon because I know that contract got to be almost up. Kirk Cousins, Minnesota,
Yeah, yeah, and
because
they need a quarterback because he's not going to win them a Super Bowl. He's
no,
going to keep them competitive.
hmm
But they got weapons. They got a weapon, and they got one of the best running backs in the league. Some people may argue that he is the best running back. To be honest with you, some people may try to argue that when he's healthy. Um, awesome core of receivers with this young kid Osborne, and then of course Justin Jefferson is going to be a premier wide receiver for years to come. Adam Thielen, he's old Yakrity and Kirk Cousins. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, he throws for 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns sometimes, but it's never against competition. He'll never lead you to the promised land. And you might want to get a young quarterback in that can really do something while you got that talent there. Don't waste it. Dalvin Cook probably got another 4 years before you start looking at him like one of those running backs that nobody wants to sign because he's not worth it.
right.
So, anyways, but yeah, you're right. You're right. We'll see how the year plays out. Anyways, on the fire and smoke. So This is a new segment that we started last week, and we're gonna bring up a couple of topics, ideas, and we're gonna decide on whether it's fire or smoke. See if it's the real deal or if it's just some air blowing in the wind. So first up, Lamar Jackson. The last 2 weeks he's played incredible. Now, in a different way though, he's always played incredible, but he looks like a passing quarterback now. He is throwing the but he looks like a passing quarterback now. He is throwing the ball all over the field to 5 and 6 different receivers. He threw for over 300 2 weeks ago. He threw for over 400 a week ago. Uh, what is this? Is this real? Is this fire or is this smoke?
You know, for me, man, it's fire all day, bro. And there's no smoke. I don't know if people didn't watch Lamar Jackson at Louisville. And I know they said the receivers are open, and we always criticize Lamar Jackson for not being a great passer, but nobody ever said he wasn't a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what usually happens when you're good at something if you really, really, really work on it? You get better. So, we always knew he had the legs. All he's doing is getting better at something that we thought he was just okay at, which he said he would and he vowed to do. Which he said he would and he vowed to do. So anybody who's surprised that from Lamar Jackson getting better at throwing the ball and looking like a true NFL passer, let me be the one to tell you, all he's done is integrate and use his legs as an advantage. And he ain't trying to really run as much as he will. He still will take off on you. But the thing about it is, he's worked on his accuracy. He's worked on those sideline boundaries. You know, me and you talked about this before. Was it last year or year before in the playoffs? Tennessee just played the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And said, we going to play outside. He can't throw outside. Try that now. So, I mean, the thing is, they've gotten smarter. They've gotten better weapons. Marquise Brown looks for real. You know, two years ago, or he's gotten more experience. His route running is better. He always had Andrews. But now, you bring in Sammy Watkins. He's been out, but you got Heaton like he would look if you've been thinking about it, he hasn't really had a number one wide receiver since he's been there. He's made Marquise Brown one, but he probably wouldn't be on any other team. So when you think about that, I mean, to me, Lamar Jackson, it's always been fire with the dude. And he's just going to get better and better and better and better.
Yeah. So I want this to be fire so bad. And I'm gonna say that it's smoke just right now. But hear me out. I'm gonna say it's smoke because I'm one of those people who needs more than a few pieces of a sample to make like to go all in on something. And while he has had these 2 great weeks back to back, he's also had weeks before that were okay. That were like regular Lamar Jackson passing games. It's not always about the numbers. Sometimes it's about the way it looks. And I will not lie. The last 2 weeks he looked, or he threw a screen and somebody took it to the house and that padded his passing yard stats. No, he looked like a passer the last 2 weeks. But I need to see a little bit more. What I will say in reference to what you said is like in to add on to what you said that in reference to you got to keep in mind that when Lamar Jackson was drafted, Joe Flacco was the leader of that team. And I can't remember who the wide receivers were, but they didn't have anybody top notch.
There's a reason you can't remember.
And when Lamar Jackson took over, they didn't have any. When Lamar Jackson took over, then he came into the next year as a starter. They drafted Marquise Brown. They drafted Duvernay. They drafted Miles Boykin. They drafted all these guys. These guys were young too. Like he didn't go like Justin Fields has Allen Robinson already. A lot of these a lot of times quarterbacks bad. They get drafted to a team that has a stud or somebody who's considered to be a pretty good wide receiver. Lamar Jackson is growing as a quarterback, but so is his receivers because they are all there together growing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So people wanted Marquise Brown to be this number one stud coming out of college, but he needed time to mature into the route runner he is right now. He looks like he could be a number one receiver right now, the way that he's running routes and getting over. DuVernay came out of Texas. He was their number one receiver in Texas, but he was drafted later. He's a solid receiver. Miles Boykin, who's just coming back, he was a solid receiver when he was playing in college. I think he was at TCU, but he's just coming back off of IR. And now they got this Rashad Bateman guy who is if his play in Minnesota as a college player is going to if you're going to take what you saw from him in Minnesota and move it over into the Bateman was a beast. He didn't get the coverage that everybody else got because he played for Minnesota, but he was a beast. So I think when you combine all that this probably will be fire, but I just need to see it first before I, jump all in. So I'm kind of in the middle. It's kind of like a fire that's coming up, but it's still a whole bunch of smoke. You see the sparks. You still see the sparks, and depending on which way the wind blow, them sparks gonna turn into flames, or it's just gonna blow the sparks out. So I'm kind of there. It's not all smoke, but I can't say all fire yet.
I'm all in. I'm all in on it.
Yeah. All right. The Cardinals, Cardinals undefeated. There's only 2 undefeated teams left in the league, right? Cardinals and is it 2? No, I think it's just the Cardinals. Yeah.
That's it.
Are the Cardinals for real? Are they the contenders that people say they are? The Cardinals. Yeah.
That's it.
Are the Cardinals for real? Are they the contenders that people say they are, that we want them to be?
Man, I don't think so. And it's hard for me to say this. Of course, a little bit of bias. They are in my division. When I say everybody knows what that means. But for me, it's all about Kyler Murray. Figuring out Kyler Murray. And I just have a feeling by midway this year, they're gonna figure something out. I mean, I think so. That's what I think. But hey, I could be very well wrong because we just talked about Lamar Jackson, and this dude is Lamar Jackson that can throw great right now from the jump. He was if y'all didn't know, dude was a baseball player. He was drafted to play baseball. So the arm, the rocket, the throwing, he is a real quarterback who is just super fast. But for me, it's the Cardinals defense that I don't think is 100% real deal. That's who I'm not completely sold on. I've seen what Chandler Jones has done. We know about Budda Baker. We know about a lot of the guys on this defense, but I don't know if they for real. And that's where I'm kind of at with this. There's gonna be a time where I feel like they're gonna start playing the Cardinals where a lot of people. So I want to see when teams just start running the ball and trying to keep Kyler Murray off the field and have a different approach against Arizona, how they will be. And is that defense is good? That's my question. The offense, Kyler Murray's the real deal, no doubt. My question is that defense the real deal? And that's who I get. That's why I think it's a lot of smoke, because I think that defense is looking a lot better than what they really are right now.
So I think this is fire all day. And I have to go with what they've done. If they played in the AFC South, then I would probably be like, oh, this is smoke. But they played in the NFC West, and they beat the 49ers. They beat Seattle. They haven't played – they beat the Rams too, right? Or haven't played the Rams yet. I know they beat Seattle. I know they beat the 49ers. I don't think they beat the Rams. The Rams only lost to – well, no, they beat the Rams.
The Cardinals have beat everybody, and I think they played everybody in the division.
Yeah, so. And that's why, to me, it's fire, because of those wins. The defense, they're not a bad defense. They're just not, ranked in the top 5. And I agree with you. If they play a team with a running game that can, keep them off the field, that would be a recipe for success. But let's be honest, how many teams have that? You got Dallas, who has a great running game in the NFC. Honest, how many teams have that? You got Dallas, who has a great running game in the NFC.
Hold on, and they have not beat Seattle. They haven't played.
Okay,
Seattle
they didn't play
yet.
Seattle. They haven't played Seattle.
I
was thinking of the Rams game.
They beat the Rams and the 49ers. That's the 2 they beat.
Rams, okay.
Yeah.
And to me, those were the 2 teams out of the 3 to beat, because Seattle, while they have Russell Wilson and those 2 stud receivers, they're the one with the offense, the defense that's weak in the division. So they beat the two teams with the defenses that you would think, okay, if anybody's going to beat the Cardinals, it's going to be one of these two teams because of how stacked their defense is, and they beat both of them. To me, that's enough for me to say, hey, this is they for real. And it's not, to me, it's not just about Kyler Murray because they have weapons everywhere, and they just added another one in the tight end position to Zach Ertz. So now you got somebody who can cover the middle field. You got 20 people really believe is the best talent at wide receiver in the league. He doesn't have the numbers, but the talent. He doesn't drop balls. Like, he can run every route and catch every ball. He's a 50-50, machine as far as, like, you throw the ball up, probably 75% of the time he going to get it. Forget 50-50, 75-25, Right. And then you have this great veteran in A.J. Green who just knows the game and knows the position and knows how to get open and can help the team. You got two running backs who are seasoned, one who can catch the ball and run, one who's more of a straight downhill runner. Like, you got everything you need on that offense. So Kyler Murray's not doing well, go to the short game, pass the ball short, throw the ball through the middle, use the tight end. Every team has a weakness in their secondary. Every team. Mm-hmm. And he has weapons everywhere on his offense to exploit that. So I don't know if it's a matter of getting to Kyler Murray, to be honest, because of everything he has around him. And he has weapons everywhere on his offense to exploit that. So I don't know if it's a matter of getting to Kyler Murray, to be honest, because of everything he has around him. Like, if he just had DeAndre Hopkins and Zach Ertz, well then, okay, you can maybe shut that down. Or if he just had two good running backs and decent receivers, okay, well, let's just shut the run game down. No, you can't really focus on no specific aspect of the team because they have everything. I think you're right, though. If Kyler Murray doesn't show up, they don't win. But how can you not show up?
Well, I don't think, and I'm really not basing a lot of this on the offense. It's the defense that has looked lights out that I think is the smoke part. I don't think that defense is going to hold up. Like, first game against us, they beat us 17-10. I think that was more about our offense and less about their. But I think that was more about the Rams getting out of what they needed to do versus how good the Cardinals played. And I could be wrong, but I think that defense, I've seen them also give up 33 to the Vikings, 19 to the Jags. I mean, it looked like they didn't dominate the Jaguars, So, like I say, I'm not 100% sold on that defense yet.
You know that every year there's trap games. People don't play up to par. They barely beat certain teams. And those games should be the barometer that we use to judge how good a team is. What we use is, did they beat them? And how do they play against top-notch competition? Mm-hmm. And they beat the Jaguars, who was a weak team. They beat the Vikings, who was a middling team. And then they played excellent against the teams that they needed to, that we saw as competitors. The first game of the year, the Titans is somebody that people looked at as a Super Bowl contender coming out of the AFC, one of the better teams. They dominated them. They dominated the Rams. And then they did what they had to do to beat the coming out of the AFC, one of the better teams. They dominated them. They dominated the Rams. And then they did what they had to do to beat the 49ers. To me, that's how they should be judged in these 5 games they've played. So I got to give it a fire. And we'll see how it plays out for the rest of the year. All right. So Patrick Mahomes, is he still the best QB? Because we talked about these young QBs, and we got some QBs out there that's really lighting it up. And most people, because consensus is Patrick Mahomes is the best QB. We got some people out there like Tom Brady, the best QB. We know Tom Brady is great, but he's not the best quarterback in the league right now. That's what it is. We know that he can't do what a lot of these other quarterbacks they do, but he's still great. He's top 5 in my opinion. But who's the best quarterback? Is it still Patrick Mahomes?
No. Not in my opinion. I mean, in my opinion, we just talked about him. Our first Fire and Smoke segment. It's Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. He's doing the most this year with the least. And what I mean by that, if any of y'all paid attention to the preseason, Baltimore lost half their team, bro. And not to for a couple of weeks to season-ending injuries. They lost their top running back. They lost their best cornerback. What they lose? Their best defensive lineman. I mean, they weren't expected to be 5-1. Nobody thought they would be 5-1. And to be honest with you, if you've watched those games, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
They are solely 5-1 because of Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson only. The only surprise to everybody is it hasn't been because of his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you cannot make an argument to me based off of work with versus what Patrick Mahomes has to work with or any other top quarterbacks, which I mean Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. To me, those are the top 4 quarterbacks in the league right now as far as performance and the way they playing. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. And I feel like Lamar Jackson is the best out of all 4 because he's doing the most with the least right now.
I agree with everything you said. For Lamar Jackson, he is playing the best right now. But I always respond to this question in a total, way. It reminds me of when during the basketball season when LeBron James had some off moments or his team goes on a losing streak, and then people start talking about, is LeBron James no longer the best player in the league? Is it Giannis? Is it Kevin Durant? And then at the end of the year, who in the finals? Who at the end of the year, who's the person that everybody's looking at, enamored by what they did? It's the end of the year, who in the finals? Who at the end of the year, who's the person that everybody's looking at, enamored by what they did? It's LeBron James, and I look at it this way too. You're right. Lamar Jackson is playing the best right now. And we were talking about MVP candidates for the league. I agree with that. But we're talking about, for me, because we're talking about the best quarterback, he's had a rough patch. His team's had a rough patch. And even in those rough patches, this boy is still putting up 280, 290, 300 yards, 3-4 touchdowns. The way he's playing right now, take his name away from it and just look at the stats and put it on somebody else. You'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll take that quarterback all day. This dude is amazing. But our expectations of what Patrick Mahomes is so high that when he does drop down just a little, it seems as if, okay, maybe he's not what we thought. No, Patrick Mahomes is exactly who we thought he is, exactly who we think he is. And I think we're going to be Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. You're right. What Lamar is doing without the weapons that he with not having the weapons that Patrick Mahomes has is amazing. And it's not like it's a big drop off. It's not like it's Patrick Mahomes and then take 10 steps back and now you bring in the next quarterback. Lamar Jackson has always been a competent passing game away from being right there with Patrick Mahomes anyway, But when you're talking about the total package, the way he throws the ball, the awareness he has on the field, just everything that comes down with it. Yes, he has incredible weapons. I'm not going to take that away from him. An incredible offensive-minded coach. But what you see in Patrick Mahomes, that has nothing to do with those people. It's fire. I mean, well, is he the best quarterback? Yes. I don't even know how to answer that in the fire and smoke. But yes, he's the best quarterback.
I'm putting Lamar Jackson ahead of him this year as far as saying the best quarterback. Nothing to do with his talent. Nothing to do with none of that. It's his decision making. He got more interceptions already this year than he had all of last year. We're 6 weeks in. They got the Chiefs are leading the league in turnovers on offense. That's why they're losing. Now, yes, their defense sucks, but when you're turning the ball over, they don't turn the ball over. Patrick Mahomes doesn't turn the ball over. That's why they mask a lot of their issues on defense because they outscore everybody. Well, when you start letting these teams get 2 and 3 and 4 extra possessions that they normally wouldn't get, and you put your terrible, one of the worst ranked defenses in the league on the field, that's what's happening right now to the Chiefs.
But this is where Patrick Mahomes has to grow as a quarterback. Because the reason he's turning the ball this is where Patrick Mahomes has to grow as a quarterback. Because the reason he's turning the ball over is because his defense can't stop anybody. Mm-hmm. He's turning the ball over because he feels like he has to make plays he feel like he can't afford to not score because the team is going to score and it's going to put him further behind. So yes, that is a learning curve for him, but to me, that's not going to take him away from being the best quarterback right now. If he finishes, if he goes this year and his numbers continue to climb in that opposite direction, he finishes with all these turnovers, 15 interceptions, 10 interceptions. He pulled like a Jameis Winston and have 30, which that's a little extreme, I know.
Yeah.
But you see my point, 10, 15 interceptions. Then I'll be like, okay, you know what? Maybe, because these other quarterbacks are catching up. Josh Allen, somebody we're not even talking about. This boy is killing the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can easily, I feel like he's going to turn it around.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I fully expect him to. I got to see it. Like you say, we got to see it. I want to see, what are you going to do now, Patrick Mahomes? Because all these teams are saying you're not going to beat us with Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. We're taking them away. What you going to do about it? And right now, what I'm seeing them do about it is turn the ball over. So I need to see the Patrick Mahomes that I know the Patrick Mahomes is. Now that they're not letting you just dump the ball to Kelsey and Tyreek Hill.
Let's be fair now. I don't know how many, but a good amount of those turnovers were like off the hands of a receiver. Like I know last week when they lost, one of them was like right in Tyreek's hand. I mean, it was a perfect pass, just bounced off his hands and then went into the defender's hand. So he has like 3 interceptions like that too. So we can't just put all the turnovers on him as if he's making all these mistakes. Making all these mistakes.
Those interceptions didn't happen last year. Regardless of the fact. Those interceptions didn't happen.
It's not a regardless of the fact. If you see it, you know that, okay, that's circumstantial. Yeah, like him with the no look pass, that's all on him. Like stuff like that, like him being all fancy, like you don't need to do that. That's ridiculous. Yeah,
but a lot of stuff is circumstantial when it comes to Patrick Mahomes. You know how many 50-50 balls, how many throws he make that's just up there, and Tyreek Hill goes up under it, or it just so happens that could easily have been picked off. Happens a lot. It's just this year they're being picked off.
No, a lot of quarterbacks do that, especially like good quarterbacks that trust their receivers, like Tom Brady. He does it all the time. So when we're talking about something like an actual mistake, when you're using it as an argument against a person that didn't make a mistake, that's not fair, is what I'm saying. Like if he had 6 interceptions and 3 of them is because his wide receivers can't catch the ball.
And completely understand that, but my whole argument is, regardless of how many interceptions or how they happen, you got more than you had all of last year, and we ain't even halfway through the season. That's my point. You had the same receivers, the same things. All those things do translate. Not understand. He probably had 2 or 3 interceptions, if not more, last year. That wasn't his fault. But you got more this year than you had all of last year. That's a problem for me, and that's a Patrick Mahomes problem, not a, hey, his teammates are fumbling the ball or not catching it right problem. That's a Patrick Mahomes problem. You're making bad decisions.
It's a team problem. It's not a Patrick Mahomes problem.
I will say that 11 turnovers.
The reason why I say it's a team problem is because if his defense was even as good as it was last year or the year before, I guarantee you he probably don't have the turnovers he has. Because the play calling is different. He's not doing as much. He's not throwing as much. So it's a team problem. Yeah. It's reflected on Patrick Mahomes because he's the leader. It should be reflected on Andy Reid. That's who it should be reflected on.
We don't talk about how great Andy Reid is when he throwing all them no-look passes. We talking about how great we talking about Patrick Mahomes.
When you acknowledge No. You take
Same thing
away
with LeBron. When LeBron does great, we say it's LeBron. When he does bad, we say it's LeBron. Same thing with Mahomes. We have never said the Chiefs' offense is. To me, I think it is.
Nobody held that standard with Tom Brady when the Patriots weren't playing great, when they were playing okay. They looked at Belichick. The first thing they would look at is Belichick as a coach. They wouldn't say it's not Tom Brady. They gave him the respect he deserved to have when he wasn't pushing the ball down the field and putting up big numbers. They looked at Belichick and said, look, he's the coach. He's the one that's over the defense.
No, really, they looked at his team around him.
They did that too. Exactly, and they did that too. But my point is you criticize Patrick Mahomes for his mistakes, but you don't put up big numbers. They looked at Belichick and said, "Look, he's the coach. He's the one that's over the defense."
No, really, they looked at Patrick Mahomes around him. They looked at
and they did that too. Exactly, and they did that too. But my point is you criticize Patrick Mahomes for his mistakes, but you don't put the failure of the team on him. That's what I'm talking about. Like, he don't have nothing to do with that defense. He can't do. LeBron James is different. LeBron James play both sides of the ball. You can easily look at him and say, you know what? You live with LeBron James, you die with LeBron James. But I mean, if Drew Brees used to put up monster numbers every year and they wouldn't even make the playoffs because his defense couldn't stop nobody. You know, so it's not it's apples and oranges to a certain extent. But Patrick, you're right. You got to look at Patrick Mahomes for the mistakes that he's making, and he's making more mistakes than he's ever made in his career.
And I feel like we need to give, and I feel like that goes hand in hand with what you're saying. I agree with you 100%, but I also agree with the fact that Andy Reid deserves more credit than Patrick Mahomes, than it all being Patrick Mahomes and how great he is. I think a lot of that has to do with Andy Reid, but he doesn't get that credit. He don't get it good or bad.
You're right. I agree
usually
with
when
you.
you're dealing with great players, they don't.
I agree with you there with football. I agree in basketball there should be more players. In football there should be more coaches, but it's not. Because the same thing, people talk about Belichick being the greatest coach of all time, but people still give more credit to Brady than they give to Belichick. So you, as a player, you're always going to get more credit than you probably deserve to get, but that's just the nature of the beast. Anyways, let's move on to this last one. Best three-headed monster in the league. Is it Green Bay Packers? Because a little birdie told me that they think it's the Green Bay Packers got the best three-headed monster. What do you think?
I'm the birdie, y'all. Just so y'all know, I'm the birdie. No, my question for you is, I want to hear your argument of at the three skill position, who has a better three-headed monster?
I have a three-headed monster. They got a 4 or 5-headed monster, but I'll take 3 players. You could argue Dak, Amari, and Zeke, or you can take out Amari and add CeeDee Lamb. You can go Tom Brady, Gibson, Fournette. Because if you look at Fournette is killing it on the ground right now. He's actually playing better than Aaron Jones. You can take out Gibson. You can take out Godwin. I mean, and you can add in Evans. You can take out Evans and add in Antonio Brown.
So give me either one of them or any of them receivers you just named or quarterbacks on either one of those teams that's better than Devontae Adams or Aaron Rodgers.
No. It's not Tom Brady.
Three-headed monsters.
Yes, exactly.
I haven't heard. See, Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers is what makes this very intriguing.
No. You're right, but you said three-headed monster, so it has to be a combination.
And
it's not that they're better than Devontae Adams, but it's a totality of the three. You take Tom Brady, who is better than Aaron Jones. I mean, better than Aaron Rodgers. When you look at the totality of his career, right now, Tom Brady, I would take Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers, and you would too. You would take Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers was the MVP just last year. No,
I said right now. I said right now.
Not right now. Right now, I still would take Aaron Rodgers. He's doing more. He's doing more with less too.
But I'm not talking about MVP.
I would take Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady in a heartbeat right now.
If you gave me Tom Brady with Green Bay, I feel like they would be undefeated right now.
Okay.
They wouldn't have lost to that Saints team.
Okay.
Go tell me I'm wrong. They wouldn't have lost to that Saints team week 1. You put Tom Brady where Aaron Rodgers is, he gonna pepper Devontae Adams the same way. He still got greatness in Aaron Rodgers back there and AJ Dillon. I'll add that because Aaron Rodgers and AJ Dillon, the last couple of games, they've been pretty much splitting stuff. So Aaron Jones ain't even been the number one Aaron Jones ain't even been the number one he's been the number one. Let me just say that.
Really?
No, go look at AJ Dillon touches the last 2 weeks.
I saw his
touches. Go look at him.
I see the production that Aaron Jones is still putting off.
No. I'm not saying it's not production. What I'm saying is when, look at Leonard Fournette the last 2 weeks. Leonard Fournette is clearly that number one running back. He is producing like that. Ezekiel Elliott, when I brought up Dallas Cowboys.
You're going to tell me, so you can honestly go argue with me that Leonard Fournette is better than Aaron Jones? Is that what you're telling me?
I wouldn't say that right now, but what if Leonard Fournette continues on that pace? Leonard Fournette is just 2 years removed from being looked at as one of the best running backs in the league.
I agree with you, but we're not talking about what ifs. I'm talking about right now.
Three-headed right now,
those three.
You say better. Listen, I'm not saying better, but I'm saying I could put them in the same category.
The argument is who's the best.
To me, the best is not that three. To me, and the reason why is I'm not saying better, but I'm saying I could put them in the same category.
The argument is who's the best.
To me, the best is not that three. To me, and the reason why is because Aaron Jones is the weak link.
Yeah,
If
and
Aaron Jones,
if
if you put another person there,
good.
then you're right. If you put another person there, if you said the best two, we wouldn't even be having a conversation right now. Because I agree with Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams.
That's what makes it so intriguing.
Exactly. But because you put Aaron Jones, Dak is playing lights out right now.
You're putting Aaron Jones in a situation like he didn't just score 4 touchdowns a couple of weeks ago. Like he's just a low-level running back that's just okay. Like this dude is really good, bro.
You know what?
Aaron Jones is a beast.
He scored 4 touchdowns because Aaron Rodgers said so. He had like 70 yards rushing and 60 yards receiving. That was a good game.
That's a hell of a game.
Zeke didn't put. It's not a hands down. It's definitely not a hands down. But it ain't a hands down that Green Bay is the best 3-headed monster. And that's what it's like you trying to say is go name somebody better. They're not hands down the best 3-headed monster. They're not.
And that's your opinion against mine. But I still have not heard any 3 people you named that are better than those 3 combined.
It's because you're looking for a solid 3 people to name, and you can't name solid 3 people that's better. Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the league, so you're not going to get somebody to name better than him. Like just that, but hands down is you can't. By the way that you're asking that, the way you're asking that, you can't win the argument against that question because simply put, Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the league. So if you're looking for somebody with 3 players that's better than those 3 players, then you can't win that argument because Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the league by himself.
That was the argument. That is the argument.
Then that's a trick question.
It's a trick question. If you want
the argument is then that's a trick question.
It's a trick question. If you want
the argument is the best. The argument is the best 3-headed monster. So when you look at 3, you got to combine the skill sets and then you make a calculated decision. No, but you don't say you got to be better than this one, and then this one got to be better, and then this one got to be better. But that's what you said. You just said you didn't name 3 people that's better than those 3 people. That's exactly what that would be.
Combined.
I gave you a combination.
And ain't neither one of those combinations better than those 3. You gave me some combinations.
Go look at the numbers. If you want to, if you want to take your opinion out of it and you want to look at statistics, go look at the numbers. I guarantee you, Tom Brady, choose one of the receivers. Just choose one of them, and then Leonard Fournette is probably the numbers are probably right there or better. Or
I'll go look at the numbers.
Or right there or better. Or
I'll go look at the numbers.
Or Mike Williams, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. Numbers are probably better. Not even right there. They probably better because Mike Williams been putting up goddamn numbers. Austin Eckler been putting up goddamn numbers, and Justin Herbert been putting up goddamn numbers. So when you talk about a 3-headed monster, if you want to talk about best and take your opinion out of it, use something to measure it by. But I agree with you. If we're talking about quarterback and wide receiver, because of the combination of just those 2, I can't name a better quarterback wide receiver combination. But when you add Aaron Jones in there, that's when you make this a conversation.
In my opinion, you can't go by stats because stats lie. Stats tell you Derek Carter's second best quarterback in the league this year. So
stats just told you, and you just use stats, but you just running backs in the league.
Not use stats. All I
you did. You just said about
action. He had a 4 touchdown game. That's basically all I said.
Is that not a stat? Lottie, is that not a stat? You got listeners. You got listeners here.
It's a stat, but don't sit like I actually sit here and ran off all these stats about Aaron Jones. It's not about stats for me. It's about who are the top 3 best players at their position. And Aaron Rodgers, to me, and Devontae Adams are so far at the top, and Aaron Jones ain't that far at the bottom to put 3 other players together and say those 3 are better combined than those.
Where's Aaron Jones?
In my opinion, he's a top 10 running back.
Top 10. Good Lord. Okay, so me and you had this conversation off air about Antonio Brown. Mm-hmm. If Antonio Brown is not on Tampa Bay, what would we be saying about him as a wide receiver right now?
He one of the best in the league.
Exactly.
Give
I
me
mean,
Leonard Fournette, man. Leonard Fournette.
this because you're looking at his name. You're looking at his name.
He wasn't even starting over Ronald Jones at the beginning of the year.
You're right, he wasn't. But why is he now?
And let's keep in mind, Tampa Bay still leads the league in pass efficiency and pass attempts and all that. They don't even give the ball. If they were that confident in him, they wouldn't lead the league in passing. With a 44-year-old Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette is not that dude you're trying to make him out to be.
Where's no. I'm not trying to make him out to be like he's one of the best running backs. I'm looking at right now, like you talked about Lamar. No. Just like you just talked about how Lamar Jackson is playing right now. I'm looking at the way Leonard Fournette is playing right now. And right now, Leonard Fournette is playing like a top 10 running back.
The last 2 games.
because that's when he took over the position the last 2 games. He's basically made it to where you can't deny who he is as the running back anymore. He's the last 2 games. He's basically made it to where you can't deny who he is as the running back anymore. He's finally settled in, and the Leonard Fournette that we thought he was going to be in Jacksonville, that's what you're starting to see in Tampa Bay. By the way, if that is what you're starting to see, that makes Tampa Bay even more dangerous. But that's besides the point. But top 10, okay, you said Aaron Jones top 10. Where do you see Tom Brady? What do you see Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback? Top what?
Top 5, maybe 6.
Because
I've already told you who my top 4 or 5.
Where's Tom Brady? Where's Tom Brady?
Top 10.
So you put Tom Brady top 10, but Aaron Rodgers top 6. So you have Tom Brady behind Aaron Rodgers.
100%. I just told you I would take Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady
the number one statistical quarterback, I think, in the league right now.
Just them weapons he got, and see who would be the number 1 statistical person in the league. I mean, we can go about it all kind of different ways, but I would take you. We just sat here and had this conversation, and you even made the statement: Tom Brady is not even close to being one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now. You just said that earlier in the show.
But what I said in that same breath, I said he's still top 5.
Oh,
I said that too. Yeah. Okay.
So you think he's better than Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson?
I will take my top 5 is Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Kyler Murray is not in my top 5.
That's cool.
Lamar Jackson is not in my top 5. Lamar Jackson is an outstanding talent, and he's achieved. So he was MVP a couple years ago, but he's not in my top 5 because
that's cool.
Lamar Jackson is not in my top 5. Lamar Jackson is an outstanding talent, and he's achieved. So he was MVP a couple years ago, but he's not in my top 5 because I look at what can you do when you're put up against the best of the best, and you've proven that. And Kyler Murray ain't made the playoffs yet. Lamar Jackson has stumbled every time he's gotten into the playoffs, and he just don't have the tools that like somebody like Justin Herbert has right now, which is why I said for me, Lamar Jackson is still a little bit of smoke. Somebody like Justin Herbert come in throwing the ball the way he's throwing, looking like he's been playing the league for 15 years, Justin Herbert to me is probably going to be looked at as one of the best quarterbacks that ever touched a football field. So yeah, Tom Brady, I'm not going to deny that guy being top 5. He is not managing the game. I was wrong. I was one of those people that thought he was going to be, managing the game with these weapons, and I thought he had lost it. I was wrong. But when I admit that I was wrong, I'm not going to sit back and be like, well, he still ain't. Nah, Tom Brady, that dude. You can't take it away from him. He is top 5.
But you're not going to sit here and tell me he's better than Aaron Rodgers, who won an MVP, and all he had last year was Devontae Adams. Literally, that's it. He won the MVP. We talking about a dude that just won the MVP last year. And you're talking about time. Aaron Rodgers, I want everybody to take this, and I want everybody to hear this. Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers, is what's coming out of his mouth.
No, I'm not saying Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers.
You literally just said he was in your top 5. And you didn't name Aaron Rodgers.
My top 5 is people who I like better. It doesn't mean, like, for instance, I think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. But I would pull LeBron James all day because I like his style of play. The way that he throws the ball as a simple single talent, Aaron Rodgers is better. But there are things that Tom Brady has that Aaron Rodgers don't, like the leadership, the intangibles,
So now you're
the
saying
stuff that you can't see.
it's just
So
your,
I would
it's
take
your
Tom
opinion.
Brady.
It's your opinion. It's
Lonnie,
basically what you're saying. You
all
can't
this
argue.
is our opinion. Lonnie, all this is our opinion. Your three-headed monster is our opinion.
You literally just said, get out of your opinions and your favorites and go statistically.
No. I said when you have a question like this, the only way that you can solidify what number one is, number two is if you have a point to measure. So I threw statistics out to look at something that was concrete. But if you're not going to use something concrete, then everything else is subjective, and it's your opinion.
Yeah. The whole thing about fire and smoke is an opinion. It's opinion. But I mean, we just disagree on this opinion. That
look, you just spoke to the world and said you're gonna have an overwhelming amount of people look at that as ridiculous. You're probably gonna have half people say Tom Brady, half people say Aaron Rodgers, because there's not a significant drop off in how good they are.
I disagree.
I mean, you may disagree, but at the end of the day, I guarantee you it's not going to be a significant drop off of people who would go with Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers, because Tom Brady wasn't that far behind Aaron Rodgers in the MVP voting last year. And that's just the truth of the matter. You know, Aaron Rodgers just happened to win out this year. Like right now, who would you be the top 3 MVP candidates?
Right now?
I would say Lamar Jackson would be number 1.
No, Kyler Murray's number 1 to me.
I can't argue that. Between them, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, I would throw
Josh Allen. I mean, he played
Josh Allen. To me, it's Josh Allen, and then after Josh Allen, to me, it's like Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, or Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, or you can maybe put Tom Brady ahead of Josh Allen because Josh Allen did kind of start off slow. So, but right now, Aaron Rodgers is not in the MVP conversation. He may be at the end of the year, but Tom Brady there. So my point is like there's not going to be a significant drop off of people who think that Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers, or people who think Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. To me, they like right there. Like I said, if you would have said the best wide receiver quarterback combo, I wouldn't have had nothing to say, because Devontae Adams shuts the rest of the conversation down. But when it comes to those other 2 positions, man, that is so up in the air with debate. But anyways, we done talked about this for too long.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's gonna come ahead. We can sit here and argue about it all day.
You're exactly right. We got to cut it off.
Gonna come ahead. We can sit here and argue about it all day.
You're exactly right. We got to cut it off.
Yeah. The
anyway,
reality of it is, hey, for everybody listening, we clearly made it to where I thought it was fire and he thought it was smoke.
Well, yes, clearly that's what it is. Yeah. NBA season is opening on Tuesday, and
oh wow!
it's open.
I didn't even realize it was coming that quick.
Yeah, it's open the 19th, and I think the first games, I think it's the Lakers versus the Warriors and the Nets versus the Bucks, if I'm not mistaken. And that brings us to the Nets versus the Bucks and the Warriors versus the Lakers. And it brings us to the Nets because they're going to be without their superstar Kyrie Irving, and of course, if you haven't been following the news, the situation is Kyrie is taking a stance on getting vaccinated, and because he plays in New York, they have a law that I can't remember exactly what the law is, but basically he can't play home games in New York without having a vaccine. So if the Nets would allow it, he would be able to play all his away games depending on what state he was in. I think California is also a state where you have to be vaccinated. But the Nets are saying if you don't get vaccinated, you're not playing, because you're not going to play these games and then miss all of these games. And, just want to talk about that situation. Kyrie, his stance, what that means. What's your opinion about all of this going on? And before we get started, I just want to say Kyrie's opinion is his opinion. And just like he has his opinion about what he's doing, we have our opinions about what we would do for ourselves, or just our opinion about what other people do. He's a celebrity. He's an NBA player. And when you in the spotlight, people can have a right to discuss it and talk about it. If you don't agree with our views, that's perfectly fine. But what I will say is, if you want to debate anything that we're saying or challenge anything that we our view anything that we're saying or challenge anything that we our views on this, be respectful, because anything that we say right now is going to be respectful towards him. Even if we disagree, it's still going to be respectful. So,
Kinda.
well, for me
Nah,
it is.
no. I mean, no. I'm just kidding. No, no. Seriously, for me, everything Kyrie was doing, I was okay with until the most recent comment where he said he was not against the vaccine. It was that he was just making a stance and trying to be a voice for the voiceless, which to me, that makes you stupid. Because what you're trying to do, you don't realize that the platform you have, you're giving up your platform in order to do what you're trying to do. Do you realize the reason you have a voice? Do you realize the reason you have a voice, Kyrie, is because you're one of the greatest basketball players in the league? Guess what happens when you ain't playing basketball? It's one thing I always love that LeBron say, keep the main thing the main thing. Nobody's really going to respect what you have to say when they never see you. They don't, I mean, you're not out there. You're not considered one of the people like us who, if somebody says, you want people to relate or be a voice for the voiceless. Let me go a little bit a step further. I feel like I can be a voice for the voiceless in certain situations. I feel like everybody can have their part in being the voice for the voiceless. But I can't take a stand and say, I'm not going to go to work and support my family, or I'm not going to do this because I want to be the voice for the voiceless. First of all, if you want to be a voice, be a positive one. You know, there's always a way to be a voice. You're being a negative voice. You're causing negativity to everything that's going on top of the fact that every time you try to do something, which, let's be clear, nobody here is in, I've told you this. One thing y'all will understand about this show is we both, and I think I can speak for both of us, that we both look at Kyrie as being a very intelligent person. But he normally contradicts and does dumb things. And we all do to a certain aspect. But that platform and that voice that you're saying you have, it becomes less and less of a voice, man, when people stop respecting your voice. So all the contradictory stuff that you're saying, all the things that you do that end up contradicting or not looking good, well, that voice that you're saying you're standing up for, people stop listening to it. And that's my biggest thing for Kyrie. You're not doing anything to help anybody by not playing ball and not getting this vaccine. I'll go back to anything to help anybody by not playing ball and not getting this vaccine. I'll go back to what I was talking to you about earlier in the week with LeBron. Keep the main thing the main thing. We all know LeBron wasn't 100% for the shot. But when it came to making that decision of keeping the main thing or taking this shot, he kept the main thing the main thing. Now, regardless of if he wants to be a voice or not, what did he come out and say? I had the vaccine. My family had the vaccine. I felt like that was what was best for my family. But I also don't condone or not condone this person not getting it or getting it. Well, guess what? You can't have that voice or speak up when nobody respects what you have to say. And I think that's where we're going with Kyrie. Nobody really cares about what you have to say anymore. So it's getting to a point where everything you're doing is, if it's for the reasons you're saying you're doing it, it makes no sense because it's not working. I'm done. I'm done. I mean, I'm not done, but I need to shut up and let you go.
Well, yeah, we don't need to talk about it too long, but I'm gonna try to be short. So these situations like this, I'm usually indifferent. Like, I don't usually have much of an opinion one way or the other, because a lot of times, because these situations deal with people's personal business and their life, and I'm usually like, hey, if that's what you want to do, then you do it. I don't care. But the reason why I have an opinion about it is, like you said, is because of his statement where he comes out and says that he's not anti-vax. He's doing this to be a voice for the voiceless, the people who need their livelihoods, who's being forced to take the vaccine. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't the vaccine in the way that they're doing it. I think it should be something that's mandated. I think I'm not something that's mandated. I see why it's being mandated by the government. I just don't agree with the way the government doing it. But that's another conversation. Right. My problem with Kyrie, I ain't gonna say my problem. I don't think what he's doing is effective. Mm-hmm. I think he genuinely has a good intentions.
Right, right.
But I don't think what he's doing is effective. And the reason why is because it's like when you go support something, you go all in or you don't do it. Because your support has to be seen. Your voice needs to be loud. Kyrie has a platform outside of basketball. He could easily make himself seen on social media and talk about the issues that he wants to talk about. People will tune in. People will start to share it. It would be everywhere. Make himself seen on social media and talk about the issues that he wants to talk about. People will tune in. People will start to share it. It would be everywhere. But he's not choosing to do that. He's just choosing to sit in the background and say, I'm not going to play. And this is why. What's moving the needle? What's moving the needle to make things different based off of you wanting it to be different because you feel like it's wrong? Nothing. Either you go all in or you don't go in at all when it comes to supporting something like this.
I agree.
At your stature, you can't just be sitting in the middle. Now, at the end of the day, it don't affect me. So again, I will reiterate, I don't care.
Right, right.
You know, but just my opinion about when you are speaking up for a cause, go in or you don't go in at all. Colin Kaepernick wasn't a vocal leader, but his actions spoke volumes.
Exactly.
And I don't see action or speaking connecting with Kyrie's decision to not get the vaccine and play basketball. I just see him sitting back and not playing. He may be having great conversations with people behind the scenes and saying things that make sense, but you're in the spotlight and people are either for you or against you, but it doesn't matter if people agree with you or don't agree with you. What is moving the needle?
And
what are you doing to make things change for the cause that you're supporting? And I can't see anything. And if I gotta go look for it, then it's not loud enough.
Right, right. And that's why I say I love the. And that's why I say I love the way you put that, because that actually makes I can put it in a better perspective based off of what I meant when I said keep the main thing the main thing. Just like you just said about his platform, social media, all these different platforms he have. I do agree with that 100% besides basketball. But you know what you're not playing basketball does? Distract and deflect away from the real cause of what you're doing. Nobody's talking about you, Kyrie, being an anti-vaxxer or being the voice for all these people. They're talking about you not playing basketball. That's all they're talking about. And that's why I love what you just said about, using your platform. What is it doing? What are you doing? And that's what you're doing is accomplishing nothing. That's the problem that I have with the whole thing. If you're going to take a stand, at least take a stand for something. What are you standing for? You just came out last week and said you weren't standing for. That is, you're not anti-vax. So I'm just confused. Yeah. I mean, when you get people confused, that's when they stop listening.
Yeah, true.
When people don't understand, they just like whatever.
Yeah. So let's move on. We almost done. I know it's a long show. We really went off on a little tangent with that Green Bay thing.
Hey, that's a good thing though. People
no,
want to
see that. It was.
It's a good thing.
So on to our fantasy top picks for Week 7. Week 7 top picks, quarterbacks. I have Kyler Murray versus the Texans. Patrick Mahomes versus the Lions. the Texans are a dumpster fire right now. One of the worst teams, the worst defenses in the league, teams as a whole. And Kyler Murray should eat. Patrick Mahomes playing against the Lions. I think he's going to eat against the Redskins, and he's definitely going to eat against. Kyler Murray should eat. Patrick Mahomes playing against the Lions. I think he's going to eat against the Redskins, and he's definitely going to eat against the Lions. So those are my top 2 quarterback picks. What you got?
Well, I'm gonna give you mine for one. One is gonna be a cheaper pick for people if you want to go low on quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa playing against the Falcons next week. Just watching this game today, even with the ribs, he don't look bad against the Jags defense. Who is they're not horrible, they're not great, but they're not horrible. But just going against that defense next week, the Falcons, I think you can get a cheap Tua and put some big things around him. My other pick is Matthew Stafford. How do you not put Matthew Stafford against the Lions?
Yeah, they got some good quarterback matchups next week.
He gonna try to annihilate.
Yeah.
The Lions. And guess what? Sean McVay.
Oh, you know what? I put Mahomes against the Lions. I meant to put Stafford because I put what? No. Did I get it wrong? Because I put Mahomes because I said Lions and I put it in. I said versus the Lions. I meant to put Stafford. Yeah. So that was my pick too. My bad. I just typed it.
Dude, if y'all don't think so, Sean McVay is gonna do everything in his power to have this dude probably throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So if you don't have him in one of your lineups next week, you're probably not gonna win. Whoever got him, start him.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna be a chalky pick. Running back next week. Who you got?
I'm gonna piggyback off of what I just said with Tua, Myles Gaskin. I think you know how it is against the Falcons. I mean, everybody against the Falcons. I like Myles Gaskin. But honestly, I mean, just looking at it, there's so many running back matchups that I like. I'm gonna tell you, if Christian McCaffrey come back, I love Christian McCaffrey against the Giants.
He ain't coming back
next week either.
He been put on.
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. You could either go, you could go with either one of them against the Giants defense. But I'll give you that. I like Chuba Hubbard too. So I mean, that's a very, very inexpensive pick that I would go with.
Yeah, I like Chuba Hubbard versus Giants, and then I like Darrell Henderson versus the Lions. Darrell Henderson been killing this year, and he gonna continue to kill it against that team. Wide receivers, I never thought I would say this as somebody that I would pick for fantasy, but this person's been absolutely murdering it. But Cordero Patterson versus the Dolphins, he's just everywhere, man. He's just doing his thing, and I think that's gonna be a good matchup for him. And Devontae Adams versus the Washington football team. Devontae Adams always gonna eat, but this Washington football team is one of the worst. We thought they were going to be good, but they're not. So those are 2 wide receiver picks that I like for next week.
For me, I like Jamar Chase next week against the Ravens. Ravens defense, the defense secondary just don't look. I mean, you can eat on them. You really, really can. I like Jamar Chase next week against the Ravens. Ravens defense, the defense secondary just don't look. I mean, you can eat on them. You really, really can. And, I mean, there's a plethora of wide receivers that I could pick, but I'm going to let y'all know, if they don't go up on the price on Antonio Brown, you need to have him in your lineup. I'd be very surprised if they don't, but I don't care who they playing. As long as Antonio Brown is as cheap as he has been, he should be in your lineup.
Especially with Gronk out. That's that's one of the big factors is when Gronk out, Antonio Brown is who Brady's looking for.
He's the possession receiver. And I mean, the dude just killing it. He is absolutely murdering it.
Tight ends, man. I like Zach Ertz for his first game with the Cardinals. I know Kyler Murray gonna be ready to play with his shiny new toy. So I think Zach Ertz is gonna have a great upside. His old teammate Dallas Goedert is gonna have a good game because he got the tight end position all to himself against the Raiders. The Raiders, we'll see if they bounce back, with John Gruden being gone. You see if they have like this motivation, because there's some research behind when the team loses a coach, they come out motivated to play and they end up playing better. There's some research that supports that. Mm-hmm. We'll see. But as of right now, the Raiders, they're not that great on defense, so I can see Dallas Goedert being a really good play.
I know he was out this past week. And I asked myself, because I like that Goddard play too, but I asked myself, Did they sit him out so they could play, so they could showcase Zach Ertz?
No, he tested positive for COVID.
No, I know. I'm just saying,
Okay.
Conspiracy theorists. Yeah, he tested positive for COVID. We gonna put Zach Ertz on the field. He gonna wreck, and then all of a sudden he gone. Yeah. He really on the COVID list? I'm just kidding. No, I like Dallas Goedert, but I'm gonna tell you who else I like. Mike Gesicki against the Falcons. I love Mike Gesicki. I think the Miami Dolphins are playing a lot of 2 tight end sets. But I think, man, that dude can ball. If y'all don't know who Mike Gesicki is, you should if you're a avid fantasy player. But dude gonna ball against the Falcons.
I will say this: be on the lookout for O.J. Howard. If you didn't watch that last game, and I ain't gonna lie, I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't realize that O.J. Howard was like coming back from an injury. His name just got lost for me. But his first game back was last week, I think. And Tom Brady made it a point to get him involved. And O.J. Howard looked good out there. like he looked real good out there. So, if he's really cheap next week and Gronk is still not back, you may want to take a few shots on O.J. Howard. He had a touchdown. I think he had, if he's really cheap next week and Gronk is still not back, you may want to take a few shots on O.J. Howard. He had a touchdown. I think he had about a good 60 yards receiving. He threw the ball to him. I know he had at least 6 or 7 targets.
Right.
And this is with a full load, a full complement of receivers and running backs, and including Cameron Brate out there. So, pay attention to that. Could be a low-owned value pick that pays dividends. Anyways, real quick, we're not going to go into specifics or go into a long diatribe, but we're just going to say who got holding L's. And for me, I don't really have to say much about this. If you're paying attention to sports, John Gruden, he needs to hold several L's. His L needs to be forever. He don't need to be back in the league ever again, which is probably what's going to happen. The emails he sent, how can you work with people? How can you lead people and have those opinions about them? Like, work with the people and lead the people that I'm supposed to be caring about like that, and make the comments that I make about them. Right. That to me, that's ridiculous. Right. Like, you can go check my emails and I'm not going to lose my job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, John Gruden needs to hold that L for real.
Definitely. Absolutely. 100%. And of course, we don't even have to go into anything. We had a whole segment on Kyrie. You're holding this L, bro. And it's not about none of the stuff except the comment you made last week. The comment you made last week contradicted everything everybody thought you were doing and why you were doing it. So now nobody has a clue why you're doing what you're doing, except for you. Not even Kevin Durant and your boys at this point don't even know what you're doing. So at this point, bro, you got to hold this ill, man. You got everybody confused. Everybody on the planet is confused except you, apparently. I ain't forgetting about you.
One day you're gonna forget. This is another great episode of Hold This L. He's your host, Patel.
And I'm Lonnie.
And we out.
Peace.